Hello, and welcome to part 4 of this course in which I describe how to develop centralizations as a way of transforming your brain into a powerful virtual reality machine. We've already looked at procedures for creating more vivid visual and sound pictures of the world around us, so now let's take a look at our senses of smell and taste. While you don't always have to acquire a huge level of skill with these, there are some virtual reality settings in which they could prove very important. For example, supposing you're phobic about eating in public, you might want to create a virtual world in which you're taking part in such meals easily and comfortably. In such centralizations, the smell and taste of food could be important components of your virtual world. People often believe that our sense of smell is less powerful than our sense of seeing and hearing. This owes much to early scientific misunderstandings. During the 19th century, an eminent French brain surgeon named Paul Broca, he found that a proportionately smaller area of the brain, the olfactory region, is present in humans than in other animals. And this was confirmed to some degree by studies during the 20th century, which found that rats and mice produce around 1,000 different kinds of smell receptors, while humans can only produce about 400. While this is all perfectly true, the power of the human brain, the processing power of the human brain, enables us to utilize these 400 receptors very, very efficiently, and we can, with little practice, train ourselves to increase our powers of smell enormously. This actually was demonstrated in a series of very interesting experiments in which human volunteers were taught to sniff the ground like dogs when following a peppermint trail laid across the ground. In order to do this, they were first blindfolded, fitted with earplugs, and given industrial earmuffs, plus very thick gloves in order to shut out all other sensations. It was found they were actually very effective at following these trails, these peppermint trails. So, although humans can become as successful as dogs when tracking a powerful odour such as peppermint, the way they do so differs from the nose of dogs, whose noses actually possess a pump, and this enables them to suck in chemicals in a liquid form, which enables them to detect smells in a way humans never could. For example, when finding concealed weapons when they're trained by the military, or locating black boxes in crashed aircraft, or a wide range of other things, sniffing out drugs, for example, in a customs operation. If you'd like to learn more about these and other experiments with the senses, I've printed references at the end of this video, both books and a very interesting website. Now, I wonder, have you ever wondered why you've got 2 nostrils on each side? The answer is that, like our 2 eyes and our 2 ears, these 2 nostrils enable the brain to locate whereabouts things are. Very small differences in the time it takes an aroma to arrive at one nostril or the other indicates location. It's the same with hearing. The ear nearer the source receives the sound slightly sooner and slightly louder than the other ear. Smell makes wide-ranging use of your brain, stimulating areas associated with emotion, memory, motor reaction, and multimodal integration. Even the language areas of your brains can be directly activated by odours. Smell can also evoke vivid memories, very personal memories. This is known as the Proustian hypothesis, from the French writer Marcel Proust, who wrote Remembrance of Times Past, Things Past, à la recherche du temps perdu, after he smelt a Madeleine biscuit which he dipped in lime tea. Researchers showed that people could distinguish between odours smelled 30 days earlier with a 70% accuracy. 70% accuracy when you're recalling a smell you smelled some time before. And this compares with an accuracy of only about 10% for what we see and what we hear over the same period. One reason for the power of odours is that we have all kinds of memory lodged in our brain connected with odours, and unlike the information being sent from the eyes and ears, signals from the millions of detectors lining our nasal passages pass directly to the brain. Perhaps because of this, our memory for smells is more powerful than for most other information. As with hearing, it will probably help you maintain focus on aromas if you close your eyes and start with any aroma you find especially pleasant. Perhaps, for example, the smell of roses in full bloom. You might also experiment with sweet-smelling essential oils such as lavender, rosehip, jasmine or peppermint. I suggest you dab a little onto the back of your hand and inhale gently, noting the subtle aroma and any memories it triggers. As with sounds, try to get out of the habit of coming to a value judgment about the smell, the aroma you're smelling. For example, saying to yourself, "Oh, that's a pleasant smell," or "Gosh, what a horrible stench." Remain as neutral and non-judgmental as possible. Although we may only become aware of odours when they're especially pleasant, or indeed, of course, particularly repugnant, unpleasant, they can still frequently exert a profound influence over our behaviour. Often this will happen without our ever being consciously aware of their effect. So never ignore your sense of smell when you're creating a virtual reality world using sensualization. Skill in recalling the sense associated with a particular event will enhance both the realism of that scene and the recall of memories, the memories you associate with that particular aroma. Remember too that both our memories and our smell sensations are processed by a portion of the brain known as the limbic system. The limbic system is responsible for creating our emotions. As a result of this, aromas can be responsible for first creating and then triggering a powerful emotional response. For example, by triggering memories and emotional associations buried deep within the limbic system and not usually available to conscious awareness. These emotion-generating regions of the brain can alter our mood and change our behaviour literally from one moment to the next. Now, I recall many years ago I had a young patient, a young female patient, and she had developed a profound hatred of her mother-in-law, which she couldn't explain. The lady in question was a gentle and extremely kind woman who was always very nice to her. And so she found her dislike of the woman both inexplicable and, of course, damaging to the relationship with her family and with her mother-in-law. In my consulting room, I put her under mild hypnosis and asked her to recall the memories associated with this aroma. And she remembered finally that as a very small child, just 3 or 4, she'd been very cruelly treated when staying with an aunt while her parents were working overseas. The aunt was a very mean and abusive woman, but she also used lavender water, and it was this same perfume that was used by her mother-in-law, so the smell of the lavender water actually triggered these deeply buried memories of fear and anxiety from the abusive aunt. So it's quite easy to fix in your mind an emotional response at a very early age and then have this emotion triggered by some aroma which other people would see as perfectly neutral or perfectly pleasant. Once we'd identified this problem, the woman was able to remove this emotional block to her relationship, and the two very quickly developed a very happy and warm relationship. Now, having looked at the sense of smell, let's take a look at our sense of taste, because the two are very intimately bound together. Indeed, much of what we take to be our sense of taste is actually the aroma of the food as it's broken up in our mouth and the molecules drift upwards to the olfactory senses. These, of course, we call them as aromas. And our sense of smell is 25,000 times more sensitive than our sense of taste, as judged by the concentrations which can be detected. Now, if, as perhaps during your school biology lessons, you were shown a map of the tongue, which showed taste buds, these were said to detect things like sweetness, bitterness, and sweetness was at the tip of the tongue, bitterness at the back of the tongue. Just forget it. This is all wrong. These widely used, widely published maps were based on a misinterpretation of the work of Harvard psychologist Dirk Hannig, and he published this way back in 1901. He proposed that each section of the tongue tastes just a single basic taste, although some of the regions of the tongue may be able to detect a taste before the others do, and while sensitivity may differ across the tongue, the intensity of a sensation does not. The truth is that any of our taste buds, these occur in an onion-shaped cluster of between 50 to 100. They occur in bumps on the tongue called papillae. Any one of these clusters is able to perceive any of the 5 flavours, which are sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami. This final taste has only fairly recently been identified, and it's named after the Japanese for delicious. It has a sort of a Parmesan cheese flavour. While we extol the virtues of gourmet cooking, therefore, what we are actually talking about is not so much the taste of subtle aromas in the food, but the chemicals released as the food is chewed and evaporates up into the nose via the throat. Including taste sensations in your virtual reality sensualizations will not only help you create more powerful virtual reality fantasies, but also prove of great advantage when removing certain types of emotional block. I suggest you carry out this exercise whenever eating or drinking. It may help you, as I mentioned earlier, to close your eyes as you focus on the different sensations. Notice not only the taste, but also the changing texture and consistency of the food as you move it around in your mouth. Be aware that your senses of smell and taste are about the most difficult for most people to actually develop. They're quite hard. They're harder than visual and hearing sensations. I personally found it easy to start by focusing on just a few specific sets. For example, those of a particular flower, the salty aroma of breaking seas, or freshly mowed grass or hay. Once you get the hang of a few smells or tastes, it becomes easier to incorporate more of these into your virtual reality world. In my next video, I'll be talking about our senses, which we call kinesthetic senses, which tell us much about the way our bodies are working and how they're working in different environments. So thank you for watching this. I hope you're finding it helpful, and please get in touch with me if I could be of any direct assistance to you.